Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
December 7th, 2001. It was a typical evening near the town of Arminto, Wyoming. A BNSF empty grain train, call sign as BNSF 7938 East, was sitting in the siding near the town. The train originated from Longview Junction, Washington, and its destination was Arminto, Nebraska. The train consisted of two BNSF SD40-2s with 7938 leading and 6329 trailing, and 105 empty grain cars. The train was parked in the siding a few days ago after the crew were ordered to put it in the siding, and after making sure the train was in the siding and the switches were aligned correctly, the crew left their train more likely to go off duty. However, they made a huge error. Meanwhile, traveling in the opposite direction was the BNSF mixed manifest train, call sign as BNSF 4882 West. The train originated from Fort Worth, Texas, and was now heading towards Laurel, Montana. The train consisted of three locomotives with BNSF-944CW 4882, which at the time was only 3 years old, another -944CW 681, which still contains its ATSF lettering, and BNSF X Burlington Northern SD40-2 7829, pulling a number of freight cars. The train had two crew members, with 48-year-old engineer Mike Hoover, an experienced engineer for 29 years, and a conductor, which his name is unknown to this day. However, the crew were unaware that disaster was just seconds away. BNSF 4882 West approached the siding near the town of Arminto, Wyoming, going 47 miles per hour, while the speed at the time was 49 miles an hour. As the train got closer to the siding, the crew were in shock to find the switch was set for the siding and heading towards BNSF 7938 East. The crew desperately slammed the train into emergency braking, but it was too little and too late to prevent a fatal accident. BNSF 4882 West collided with BNSF 7938 East at 6:25 p.m. The force of the collision pushed the grain train back a little bit, and the last few cars of the train managed to go on the main line on the other side of the siding, while 4882 managed to climb on 7938, ripping off its cab and its body, leaving nothing more but the frame of the locomotive, and then 4882 went on its side nearby 7938. 681 came onto 7938's frame, leaving the back wheels hanging, but the locomotive remains upright. 7829 piled up with 681, damaging its handrails at front and back, and inside condition of the cab was damaged, but the locomotive remains upright, while 6 freight cars piled up into the wreckage and derail, but luckily none of them contained chemicals. 6329 was the only engine that did not derail, but it did suffer damage to its handrails. The conductor of BNSF 4882 West managed to climb out of the lead locomotive and immediately called for help, and minutes later, fire trucks and ambulances arrived on the scene. When firefighters arrived on the scene, they discovered that one of the locomotive's fuel tanks were leaking diesel fuel. Feeling of a fire risk, the Wyoming Highway Patrol shut down traffic at Lawman and set up a handland about 11 miles west of Powder River, allowing only emergency personnel to enter the crash site. Sadly, Mike Hoover, the engineer of BNSF 4882 West, was killed in the crash, while the conductor only suffered minor cuts and bruises, but he was alive. The cost of the damage almost exceeded to $3.2 million. But everyone was wondering the question, what caused this crash, and why did it have to happen? It didn't take too long for the NTSB to find the smoking gun, a misaligned switch. The switch should have been set from the main line, however it was set for the siding. So who is responsible for it? That would be the crew of BNSF 7930 East for not checking if the switch was lined correctly before leaving. The accident was almost similar to the Robinson, New Mexico train collision that occurred in 1956 when a Santa Fe Express train collided head-on into a Santa Fe mail train after the conductor of the mail train set the switch for the main line, but realitedly he didn't know that he already set it, so he accidentally set it into the siding. His actions leave 20 people dead and 7 injured. I guess history might repeat itself just 45 years later. In the end, what little remains of BNSF 7938 after taking some severe hit by BNSF 4882, its remains were eventually hauled away for scrap. BNSF 7829 was also deemed a total loss after finding the frame was damaged, and the inside condition of the cab was also damaged as well. The locomotive was taken to Topeka, Kansas, where the trail tank was ripped off and scrapped. The remains of the locomotive sat around for 2 years until in 2007, it was then sold to National Railway Equipment in Silvis, Illinois. It remains there as of January 2016. BNSF 4882, 681, and 6329 were repaired and put back into service. However, 681 received BNSF lettering, but still contains its ex-Santa Fe paint scheme to this day. In 2011, 6329 was renumbered to 1910 and continues to be around as of today. As for BNSF 4882, it continues in service for several years until in 2021, it was retired from BNSF and sold to GECX and continues to be around as of today. It's been 20 years since this collision, but sadly, more collisions like this continue to happen, including the 2002 Vader-Washington train collision that just occurred almost a year later. However, this one is another story.